Courses in the cement industry. Present to you.
Erection of slideshow bearing supported mill. Foundation checks. Clean upper part of foundation and bolt holes from dust, oil, water, etc. The interrelated foundation heights for slideshow bearings, gear unit and motor must be checked in relation to the dimensions indicated on foundation and erection drawings. With a view to the grouting of the bed plates, the foundation must be carried up to a level which is approximately 50 mm below the levels indicated on the drawings. Establish the center lines for mill, gear unit and motors, taking due account of the holes for the foundation bolts. Establish also a center line for both bearings transversely to the axial center line of the mill. To ensure that these center lines can be re-established at subsequent point in time, a number of angle iron frames to be bolted onto the foundation using anchors. Transfer the center lines to the angle iron frames. At the mark of center lines, make a notch using hacksaw to fit in a piano wire. Intermediates for bed plates. The uneven surface of the concrete foundation constitutes a poor supported base for the shim pads. So, fix the lowermost shim by grouting at the correct angle using a layer of cement mortar. This ensures that the other intermediate irons have a stable, plain metallic surface on which to rest. The shims must be distributed along the entire periphery of the bed plate, spaced apart approximately 250 mm. Shim pad must be fitted as closely as possible on both sides of the foundation bolts to prevent bending of the bed plate when the bolts are tightened. Shim pads in the same stack must be made equally long and wide, straightened and edges dressed, for example 50 by 100 mm. The individual stacks must comprise few numbers of shims, which a thick intermediate inserted at the bottom, making up most of the stack, and a few thin intermediate to fill out the last 10 to 15 mm of the gap. Sliding distance measurement. The length of the mill body has a tolerance range of 0 to plus or minus 5 mm. So the true distance between the center of the two slide rings must be measured. The actual dimension should be used while mounting the bed plates. Center distance of bearing base plate. Note: do not damage all the production packing on the slide ring. Open only a small portion, preferably on top of the mill, so that the same can be used for bearing contact checking. Fixtures for alignment of bed plates. Make auxiliary support at side for alignment of bed plates as described. Height adjustment. In the bed plates, there are 4 through-going threaded holes, 30 by 2 for height adjustment. Adjustment in transverse direction. Adjustment tool which is fixed to the foundation by means of expansion bolts can be used for the adjustments of the bed plates in the transverse direction. Adjustment in longitudinal direction. 2 alignment tools for each bed plate can be used to carry out this activity. The tools must be tightly down over the concrete foundation and must be provided with 2 30 by 2 adjusting screws. Adjusting the centerline positions. In order to check that the center lines of the bed plate are flush and lie at right angles to the mill axis, the angle iron frames can be used. A piano wire is drawn above the frames and the wire is kept by means of weights. Plumb lines are suspended from the piano wire and checking of the center lines must be done by means of the plumb lines. Scribing on bed plates for longitudinal center lines. Marking of these center lines must be done on the basis of the threaded holes in the bed plates, not the sides, since the accuracy of the sides is not necessarily very high. The distance L1, L2, L3, L4 in the longitudinal direction of the mill. The distance diagonals D1, D2, D3, D4 between the center lines of the two sets of the bed plates must be met within a tolerance range of plus or minus 2 mm. The two center lines of the bearings transversely to the mill axis must be perpendicular to the mill axis within 1 mm measured at the extreme end of the base plate. The distance A, B, C, D and E, F, G, H between two bed plates of a bearing at right angles to the mill axis must be kept within a tolerance range of plus or minus 1 mm. The center lines LC for the two bed plates in a bearing must be flush with one another within a tolerance range of plus or minus 0.5 mm. The two slideshow bearings, the diagonal measurements C1, C2 between analog points on the bed plates must be identical within a tolerance range of plus or minus 2 mm. The vertical distance H1, H2 of the bed plates from the alignment blocks up to the center line of the mill must be as specified on the dimension drawing within a tolerance range of plus or minus 1 mm. The bed plates must have an inclination of 30 degree relative to the horizontal plane transversely to the mill axis and must be horizontally positioned in the longitudinal direction of the mill. Both angles must be strictly observed to ensure correct installation of the God part. The tolerance for the 30 degree is maximum, plus or minus 0.5 mm for the dimension X. The tolerance in the horizontal plane in the longitudinal direction of the mill is plus or minus 0.2 mm per meter. Bolt tightening of base plate. Insert the foundation bolts in their holes and fix the upper nut flush to the upper side of the base plate. Tighten the foundation bolt alternatively as ascending bases of torque to the required torque level. Recheck the alignment of the bed plate and make any necessary adjustments if required. Final checking of the base plate. This is done by trial mounting the guard plates with the upper shining rubber backings on the bed plates. Check whether all the bolt holes and angles are correct, as all guard parts have been trial assembled on a test bench. Therefore, any minor deviations should be rectified to extent possible by adjusting the alignment of the bed plates. Subsequently, the guard plates must be remounted. After the alignment has been checked and found to be satisfactory, the foundation holes must be grouted. The holes can also be grouted with the grouting material simultaneously with the grouting of the bed plates. Bearing checking. Bearing contact with the slide ring to be checked. Mark the bearings as inlet, outlet, left hand or right hand based on high pressure oil hole position, facing center lines of mill and fixed bearing position as per drawing. Loosely fit the guide rails on the bearings. Open a small portion of the slide ring backing on top of the slide ring. Apply a thin layer of Persian blue on top of the slide ring. Clean the bearings, especially in high pressure holes, etc. Lift the bearing upside and down, place it on top of the bearings. Don't change the direction of the bearing while positioning on top of the slide ring. Ensure that the marked bearings are used in proper position. Move the bearing back and forth 2 to 3 times to take the impression. Ensure that the load of the bearing is entirely on the slide ring and not on lifting tackles. Bearing checking. Contact between bearing and slide ring. The contact pattern load, blue pattern should be evenly distributed across the entire bed. Ensure that the contact pattern is good around the oil packet for high pressure oil. If the contact level is deemed to be not satisfactory, light scraping must be executed to ensure an evenly distributed contact along a generatrix at the bottom of the slide shoe and only at this location. Bearing checking. End clearance between bearing and slide ring. Measure the end clearance of the slide shoes by means of feeler gauges. The clearance is measured at both ends of the slide shoe should be within the range of 0.05 to 0.1 mm, measured approximately to 25 mm inwards, that is just inside the approximate 20 mm wide chamfered ends of the slide shoe. The clearance must be checked across the entire width of the slide shoe. If the gap is insufficient, do slide scraping of the corresponding to approximately 20% of the length of the slide shoe at each end in order to attain the specified wedge-shaped clearance. Mounting of load-carrying pods of bearing. All load-carrying pods are provided with threaded holes for eye hole to facilitate easy handling. Clean the base plate carefully of dust, oil, burns, etc. Movable slideshow bearings. Mount the guide rails in the mill grooves on the base plate and torque tighten to the required value. Mount the rollers with the spares and truss pad and ball socket for the movable slide shoes. Ensure that the rollers are free to move in the axial direction of mill center. Fixed slideshow bearings. Mount distance block and the truss pad with ball socket using bolt holes. Torque tighten the bolt to the required torque value. Mounting of slide shoes. Mount the ball segment on the slide shoes. Care must be taken in order not to damage the threaded pin. Smear the spherical face with molecule or recognized lubricant of similar type. The slide shoes must be oriented so that the end in which the connection for high pressure oil is fitted is facing inward towards the bearing center. The slide shoes with the ball segment must be positioned into the ball sockets. Subsequently, the slide shoe must be secured against tilting by fixing it with wires between eye holes in the upper end of the slide shoe and the foundation. The slide shoes must be kept as close to the final position as possible. Mounting of mill on slide shoes. Proper tools and wire ropes are to be used while lifting the mill. Check the crane and rope capacity before lifting the mill to position. Lift the mill to position near the slide shoe. Bring the mill as close to the slide shoe as possible. Care must be taken to avoid any damage to the slide ring or slide shoe parts. Align the slide rings in line with the bearings and place the mill on temporary supports. Slowly lower the mill on top of the bearing by using hydraulic jacks. When the mill is close by, ensure that the rope wires which are used to secure the bearings are loosened. This is done to ensure that the bearing takes its own position on the ball and socket. Then lower the mill onto the bearings. Ensure that the final position of the inlet bearings are achieved. Fix the guide rails in position at inlet and outlet bearings.
In this section, we see the photo gallery. In this picture it is explained. Scraping of slide shoe bearing. In this picture it is explained. Movable slide shoe bearing. In this picture it is explained. High pressure constant, flow pump unit. In this picture it is explained. Guard plate or over thrust pad. In this picture it is explained. Ball segment. In this picture it is explained. Persian blue, applied to the ring. In this picture it is explained. Distance block. In this picture it is explained. Slide shoe bearing unit, with water outlet area. In this picture it is explained. Rollers, spacers, and guide rails. In this picture it is explained. Slide shoe bearing, over sliding ring. In this picture it is explained. Blue pattern over slide ring. In this picture it is explained. Plumb lines are notched with angle iron frames, for checking center line of the bed plate. In this picture it is explained. Taking center line of the bed plate, using plumb line. In this picture it is explained. Center line foundations. In this picture it is explained. Bed plate places over shim packs. In this picture it is explained. Inlet view of the mill. In this picture it is explained. Outlet view of the mill. In this picture it is explained. Thrust pad placed over distance block, for fixed slide shoe bearing. In this picture it is explained. Fixed bearing, and movable bearing unit. In this picture it is explained. Guide rails and rollers. In this picture it is explained. Rollers and spacers. In this picture it is explained. Thrust pad are being erected on roller, for movable bearings. Thank you for watching, and I hope these courses are helpful to everyone. Subscribing to this channel Cement Industry Courses would be appreciated. Thank you.